Welcome back to Film Obsessed, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything film related. Hey guys. So today is my review of The Batman. I saw it on Tuesday. I got to see it early thanks to a fan premiere, and I'm really glad that I did because it gave me a few days to really sit on it and really analyze my feelings on the movie, reflect the good and the bad. It always takes me a couple days to really get my full assessment in. I have my initial, but sometimes it will go down in quality a couple days later. So today I was going to talk about The Batman. Now, if you have not seen this movie, you should go see it. I'm just going to start off by saying that. Also, this is a spoiler review. So if you want a non-spoiler review, go over to our website at theobliviousco.com and go over to our blog section, and I wrote a non-spoiler review for you guys over there. So go check that out. So I'll get started by just saying I love this movie. This movie, Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson fully understand the character of Batman better than anyone else that's made a movie about Batman. And if you're wondering, like, what Batman movie to compare this to, it doesn't really compare to The Dark Knight in the way that you think it would. It more so compares to Batman Begins. And in that way, it definitely beats it. Now, I will say this is the best Batman movie we've ever gotten. It is much better than The Dark Knight in terms of a Batman movie. Because again, they understand the character. He has the look. He's got the emotional drive. He's got the acting chops. The way they present Gotham, it doesn't just look like Chicago. It feels like Gotham. It feels hopeless and dreadful. The villains, the one thing Batman movies I think do great is the villains, and this is no exception. The Riddler is horrifying. He has a real serial killer vibe to him, and it is terrifying. You really get uncomfortable seeing him on screen, whether he's in costume or not, and I loved it. Robert Pattinson's Batman is the best Batman. He understands the character. He really plays the character the way that it should be. Anyone who doubted him after they watch this will not doubt him anymore. I'm sure there'll still be Christian Bale fanboys saying, no, he's the best. But I'm sorry, but yeah, in my personal opinion, you are wrong. Robert Pattinson is the definitive Batman, and I can't wait for them to further explore this universe. Robert Pattinson, one of the things that I like best about his costume is that when I looked at it, him in the cowl, I could not recognize Robert Pattinson. I would genuinely forget he's under the cowl. Now, here's where I start getting into spoiler territory. You do not see much of Bruce Wayne in this movie. They really play on the fact that Bruce Wayne is the mask. They really play on that fact. They really show his psyche in full glory and how crazy Batman really is. Not like psycho crazy, but you really understand that Batman is who he actually is and that Bruce Wayne is his mask. So you get to see him kind of explore that. So he's mostly Batman in the movie. And I would say, for at least 75% of the movie, he is Batman. While in the other films, he's Bruce Wayne more often than he is Batman. They were not afraid to keep him in the cowl. Which, honestly, I respect that decision. I think that more hero movies should have their heroes in costumes for longer periods of time. But maybe that's just my gripe. More recent superhero movies have done better about that. Now, the Alfred character, Andy Serkis, he is not a pivotal part of this movie. He's not in it that much, but you do enjoy the scenes he's in. And then I like how he's a younger take and the connection that him and Bruce have. It's not as close as it has been with other Bat characters, but you start to understand why as you watch the movie and you see the tension built up between them because of the potential lies that Alfred has been keeping from him. If you've seen the trailer, you know what I'm talking about. And like I said, Paul Dano's Riddler, unsettling, horrifying. His scenes felt like something out of a horror movie, and in the best possible way. I loved it. Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman, I love Michelle Pfeiffer. The Batman Returns, I think, before now, was my favorite Batman movie. And I loved Michelle Pfeiffer, but Zoe Kravitz feels like you just took the comic book version and just put her in this role. Jeffrey Wright is pretty much good in anything you put him in. He's just great in general. He plays a really good Gordon. I think one of my favorite things about this movie is the relationship that he has with Batman, and like how he's trying to like how he only really trusts Batman and Batman only mostly trust him. I think it's a very interesting dynamic they have. With the rest of the characters, like I gotta mention Carl, Colin Farrell's Penguin. The prosthetics make him unrecognizable, and he brings such charisma to the character. Now, Danny DeVito's Penguin was not like comic book Penguin or anything like that. Anybody who's watched it or knows anything about the Penguin knows that. It's still a great performance, but this feels, again, like comic book Penguin. He's lower in the ranks, and he gets risen up. Now, Falcone, the villain, he's menacing. He plays a really good mob boss. So, yeah, it's like he feels like a genuine threat in a way, but not in like the, oh, I'm going to kill everybody kind of way. It's more of a, I could if I wanted to, if someone displeased me. In terms of the set design, like I said earlier, Gotham feels like, well, it feels like Gotham. It really feels like a place that doesn't really exist, and it all feels like it always is raining, is always nighttime. Like, you really don't feel any sort of hope in this city. It's like it's its own character, as I've heard someone describe it, and I fully agree with that. You really, like, again, Batman Begins felt like Chicago. Or not Batman Begins, but the Dark Knight trilogy. It just feels like Chicago, and that never sat right with me. It never felt like Gotham, and that was a big problem I had with those movies. It took that realistic take. Now, speaking of the realistic take, this movie is a lot more grounded, but it also still feels comic booky in the way that it feels like these things would happen in a comic book, but they also feel like they really could. Now, one of the things that I like better about the grounded nature of this is that again, I'm going to keep comparing it to the Dark Knight trilogy because it's the most comparable. They went for a grounded take too, but they went like, oh, Wayne Enterprises makes all this tech, but it's like all sci-fi stuff. Some people are like, yeah, that stuff could exist, but I'm like, it doesn't really feel like it. Like, and yeah, only a billionaire could access it, sure, but I just never liked it. It was never something that I enjoyed about the film. All the tech that Robert Pattinson used, from his grappling hook to the bat logo on his chest, which is a tactical knife that he can pull out, everything about it feels like he could build this himself. That, yeah, he needs a little bit of money to get the supplies, but that he could, like, someone could actually build this if they had money. And I like that because it really does feel grounded, but somehow it still feels less grounded than The Dark Knight. But it's like a good balance, in my opinion. Now, I've seen some people say they don't like the grounded take. They want the more comic booky thing, like Ben Affleck's. And I mean, I get that. I like a good comic book thing too, but I think this is a good balance, honestly. I like the more dark tone for Batman. Now, in terms of the runtime, 3 hours, most people think that's too long. Your average moviegoer. Me, as a huge movie buff, I love a long movie. Like, I went through that movie and I literally checked my watch about 2 hours in, realized we only had an hour left. I'm like, that we only have an hour left? It feels like we just started. Like, some people disagree with me, but I like a good long film. I also like when films are slower. And some people are like, oh, this film has pacing issues. It's like, no, you just don't like how long it is. And they're like, yeah, that's true. I've had a lot of discussions with my coworkers about this. And some of them think it's too long. Some think it's fine. Some think it went by really quick. It's like Avengers Endgame. Yeah, it's a 3-hour movie, but it honestly really doesn't feel like it when you're actually watching it because it's so good. It's enjoyable. Now, the grand plot of The Riddler is he's trying to show the corruption in Gotham through the DA's office, through all the dirty cops, all the way up to Falcone. And I honestly think it's a great thing that he's doing. I like the connection that he has to Bruce Wayne and just how uncomfortable it makes Batman to have to fight him. Just how unnerving it is for him. This movie really explores the whole detective aspect in a really good way. It feels very noir. Someone kind of mentioned it to me, and as soon as they did, I fully agreed, is that it almost looks like the set design and all that was ripped right out of Blade Runner 2049, like how they do some of the lighting, how they do some of the set designs. And I loved Blade Runner 2049 for the set that it built. And this movie has that same kind of neo-noir vibe. And it really shows Batman in his most detective-like state. Something we haven't seen in a Batman movie before. Not really. And I think that's the best way, because he is, more than anything, the world's greatest detective. That's like his number one tagline. So that's why I really like it. I know we're getting a bunch of spinoffs. We're getting a bunch of HBO spinoffs with like the Penguin, the Gotham City Police, Arkham Asylum. Then we're getting the sequels, and they've kind of teased they want like Mr. Freeze for the second one, or maybe the Court of Owls in a later one, and maybe Robin, which I really hope we get Robin in the Court of Owls. I freaking love both of those. So yeah, it's a great movie. The score, I mean, the man, I can't think of his name right now, but the man who does the score, he's done it for literally every big blockbuster, and it's one of the best Batman themes we've gotten. Now, this movie does have a few issues. Like, sometimes you feel like you're getting pulled out, like, because of the long, again, and this is more if you're not a big fan of long movies, you start to get a little, like, bored in some of the slower scenes. Some people argue that some stuff could be cut out, but again, I like the more content that I can get. Some of my avid movie friends agree with me that the more content is better, that 3 hours is more justified. If we get a 4-hour cut on DVD, we're 100% going to watch it. When I saw Zack Snyder's Justice League, I watched it twice, back to back, all 4 hours and 4 minutes of it. And I loved every second of watching it twice because of how good it was. And I think if you can make a compelling story, you can make a movie as long as you want, and people will still watch it. Since I work at a movie theater, I've really got to hear a lot of people's reactions as they leave the theater. And I hear a lot of debates about if this is better than The Dark Knight. And I had a friend ask me, is this better than The Dark Knight? And I asked him, do you mean as a movie or as a Batman movie? Because here's kind of a hot take for you guys. While I think The Dark Knight is a great movie, I think it is not a good Batman movie. I think Batman Begins is a decent Batman movie, but I think The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, they don't feel like Batman. Not even a little bit. Like I said, Gotham doesn't feel like Gotham. His Batsuit doesn't look anything like any version of any Batsuit we've gotten in the comics. Christian Bale tries his best, but his smoking cigar bat voice is just so bizarre. Now, the villains, like Joker and Bane, yeah, they're awesome, but again, Christian Bale, while I think he's a great actor, I don't think he ever once played, other than Batman Begins, I never felt like he was playing Batman. And that's just a hot take. My opinion, you don't have to agree with me. Most of you probably won't, but that's perfectly fine. We're not meant to always agree. And being a critic, a lot of people don't normally agree with us critics. But I think The Dark Knight is a better movie, but I think this is a better Batman movie. I think this is the best Batman movie. Now, if I had to rate this movie out of 10, as I do, I have to give it a solid 9, maybe even a 9.5 out of 10. I highly, highly recommend you go see this movie if you haven't. And if you have, leave a comment below. I really want to know what your take on this movie is. Did you like it? Did you not? Do you think, who's your favorite Batman? Is it Michael Keaton, the nostalgic one? Is it Christian Bale, the one we grew up with? Is it even Adam West? I want to know. Tell me your guys' thoughts. What would you rate this movie? Head over to our website at www.theobliviousco.com and let me know what you guys think. Yeah, like I said, www.theobliviousco.com. Have a good day, guys.